Hello everybody and welcome back to Nerdly Out Loud presents the Romford Film Festival Podcast. The Horror Festival is inbound 27th of February. We're now on the 5th of February, so we are quite close. We're not too far away. 27th of February right through to the 2nd of March. We are going to be at the Lumiere cinema, as it will be called when it opens for the festival. No longer the premiere, it will be the Lumiere. And quickly on that, before we get into this episode, which is a couple of interviews with a couple of directors that we have for you. Before we get into all that, please do go over to crowdfunder.co.uk. We are still looking for donations and help to get the Lumiere up and running in the best way it possibly can. We have a small chunk of change that has been donated to us, and we are so unbelievably thankful for everything that everyone has given us. But we still need a little bit more, so it's still ongoing. We have about 22 grand on the crowdfunder. Then we got about 22 grand from outside the crowdfunder, which was absolutely phenomenal. But you know what? Every little helps us get to that point where we can make this the best possible cinema it could possibly ever be, which is what it's going to be, because we're going to have screens for new movies, we're going to have screens for old movies, screens for world movies, screens for independent movies, screens for stand-up shows, screens for pub quizzes, cinema quizzes, screens for everything. We are going to do literally everything we can to make this cinema the best cinema it possibly can be. But for that, we need your help. So please do go over to crowdfunder.co.uk, and if you can spare a couple of pounds, that would be awesome. However, if you can't, then share the crowdfunder everywhere you can. Let people know about us. Something that can sometimes be worth a little bit more than money is actually presence. People knowing who we are, where we are, and what we're doing. And if you could do that, it would help exponentially help us get to that goal. Yes, so this episode 6 of the Romford Film Festival Podcast, we have got 2 interviews incoming. We have Dave Gardner, the director of a short movie called Surprise, which is a fantastic film that we absolutely adored. He brought us his movie Nuts last year, so it's great to see him coming back. And then we have got Russ Emanuel, who again is also another guy coming back. Last time he gave us Occupants, this time he's giving us Staycation. Both of these movies showing across the 4 days that we're going to be showing 160 odd movies across 8 different screens. That's a lot of movies, a lot of content, a lot of stuff for you to come and enjoy. So please do come and enjoy it. I myself will be down there enjoying everything there is to offer, getting to know everyone, and doing all of my nerdly shenanigans. But yeah, so let's get on with these interviews. Short movie Surprise, feature film Staycation. Both these directors were awesome to speak to. They had so many great things to say. And that's all I'm going to do. Let's just roll into the interviews, because that's kind of how this works. With another interview, and this time I'm talking to Dave Gardner, the director of a short movie called Surprise, which is an absolutely fantastic short movie showing on Sunday the 2nd of March on Screen 7 from 8 p.m. in the Short Film Showcase. So please do come and check this out. I believe it was the last normal festival. We call it the normal festival. It's the official festival. We've got the Horror Fest, and then we have the other fest. We got to see Dave's other short movie, Nuts, which went down an absolute storm. I got to speak to you about that movie back then. So it's great to see you back for another year, and this time at the Horror Festival. How are you, Dave Gardner, today? How are you?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, thank you. I just, funny enough, we just had the editor of Surprise pop round and do a surprise visit. So I've just been sort of hanging out with him for the last couple of hours. So yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
We did talk last year, but I like to treat these interviews and these little chats as the first time somebody out there is discovering us, discovering the podcast, discovering yourself, discovering the festival. So a question that I probably did ask you last year, but I'm going to ask you again, just for anybody who's new, is firstly, quick, simple question. What was it that got you into the industry, and why on earth would you do it?
Well, obvious sort of answer is I've always really loved films. It's been like a thing of mine since being a child all the way through to my adult years. And then in terms of making films, it's something I've always kind of thought about doing, but then during lockdown, had some time on my hands and time to reevaluate what it is I would like to do with my time on this earth, and decided that I'd like to throw my hat in the ring and been making sort of films up to then. So Surprise is the third one, and sort of they've gradually gotten sort of bigger and bolder as I've gone through. And obviously it would be very nice to do this as a job, but for me, I just really love making stuff and hanging out with other people who like to make stuff as well. So that's why I do it. Is that desire to create things out of ideas.
And was there, obviously you've kind of come around to it, and obviously during COVID you had a lot of time on your hands and you're like, let's do this. But was there ever a project that you saw and you thought, that is kind of what I want to do, that is what I want to do with the rest of my life? Or was there any one person who maybe inspired you to just run with it and go for it?
No, I don't think so. I've obviously got like my favorite filmmakers and people that I really admire and look up to. But I don't remember there being a eureka moment of a particular film and thinking, oh my God, I want to do that. It's just something, as I said, like always kind of dabbled with and wanted to do. And then having that time, just thought, well, why not? See if I could do it. That was my main thing, and see if it could be done. And I guess like I'm sort of inspired by people outside of film as well. Like I really look up to, David Bowie, for example, and people like that. And I just that idea of being sort of a creative, those are the kinds of people I guess that would.
But now that you're in the game, and now that you're 3 shorts deep, and you clearly have a talent for it, and you're showing us your talent each and every time, is it safe to say that you're going to stay with it and you've caught that bug?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I really, I've already got like ideas for the next one that I would. So I'm going to do another short next is the idea. But that short is something that I think I would like to develop into a feature at a later stage.
Very nice.
So yes, definitely. If I had the time and the money, I'd be making them all the time. It's just one of those things where, I've got other kind of, I don't have enough money to make as many as I like, really, or the time to write them and develop them. But yeah, I sort of any spare bit of cash or spare bit of time I have, I would put it into making more movies. Yeah.
So last year you gave us Nuts, and Nuts was about a man who had some problems and was dealing with them by kind of getting kicked in the nuts.
Yes.
This movie tells us that it might be you that kind of has the issues, to be honest, with this movie. Please do tell our audiences a little bit about what they can expect from Surprise. Obviously, no spoilers, and it's going to be a hard one to talk about. But what can an audience expect from this movie this time around?
So it is a film about a mum, and she just the setup is the premise is that she comes home to the worst surprise party possible. So it starts off sort of quite innocuous, but it gradually gets worse and worse and worse. And that's sort of as much as I'd want to say, really, without, as you say, like giving away the surprise of what's going to happen. I think audiences will pick up on maybe where it's going, but I'd like them to discover that for themselves, and hopefully they won't see the ending coming.
And this was, I believe, it definitely was. This was all shot in one take, which I loved that, by the way, because if ever there's a way to challenge yourself in the film world, that's one of the ways to do it. How did you relish this challenge of going from a film like Nuts, which is, it has its underlying storyline, but it was quite funny in a way, and you're doing lots of different things with it, to just having a camera on a person and let's go for it one take? How did you relish that challenge?
It was something that really excited me. I think, when I did Nuts, I was really wanting to do something where I could prove that I could shoot something from lots of different angles and cut to them, and it would all sort of flow together seamlessly is what I was aiming to do. And we did, on a budget, we had sort of action scenes in that with like the chases and the kind of the fighting between the two characters. This one was just very dialogue heavy. Again, Nuts wasn't. And obviously, no kind of fancy editing or camera angles in this one. It's that one shot that gradually tracks in closer and closer and closer onto the actor's face. And yeah, I was just really excited with the chance to like work with actors. Obviously I did work with actors on Nuts, but I feel like I was more like, these are the lines, stand here, say them, and we'll do this. And I was probably a bit too much focused on the technical sort of aspect of it. And that's something that I, wanted to, I wanted to get better at working with actors really on this short. So that's hopefully what we did. Yeah.
And how did you come across Dodie Finnemore? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Dodie Finnemore. Yeah.
So
She auditioned.
this is your lead actress. So somebody that I'm not 100% sure of anything else she's been in. Loved her in this, by the way. But how did you come across her as your lead, and how did you know she was the one to play the character?
We saw like quite a few actresses audition for the part of Sam, and I knew that the film kind of lived or died with her performance really. Obviously I didn't say that to her before we filmed because I didn't want to pile that pressure onto her, but she rose to the challenge and was amazing. And I guess we had to know that we'd have an actor that could do the sort of the comedy of it, somebody to be relatable, and really, at a certain point the camera is just on her face and be able to like sell what she's thinking and what she's feeling on her face. And it is, it's a real wide range of things she has to hit. She goes through a real journey on it, and it just came through in that in that audition that she could do all of those things. So and fair play to her. I mean, we cast her quite late. I think it was only like a week or two before we were shooting.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, she absolutely smashed it, like learning all of those lines in time. And we did several takes of it, and she was brilliant every single take. It was one of those ones where like, well, so many good ones to choose from. Which one do we do?
Well, that was another question I had for you, was how many takes it did, and how many takes you did do of this movie, and was it a case of once you thought you had the right one, was the perfectionist in you still kind of like, let's try for another couple, see if we can go better, or was it like, right, that's the one, we got it, we're done?
Yeah. So my thing was we did a few takes, and we got to a stage where I was like, we've got a perfect take in terms of everybody hit what they needed to hit at the right times, had good pace to it. All the technical stuff that we needed to do our end in terms of like the camera and sound and stuff, all was good. And I think that was take 5. And then I just said to everybody, look, we've got the take, and it's there if you want to use it. This next one, everyone just like have fun and go a bit silly on this one. And that's what we did. And that's the take we ended up using. I just think it's good to have that one in the bag, and you kind of go, well, look, this is, we've got a great thing here, and we don't need to worry. If we need that take to use that take, we've got that take, and it's absolutely fine. But I just wanted to have one where, you encourage people to sort of do it wrong a bit, and sometimes you get some really cool stuff come out of that. So, and that's the take that we ended up using.
And when you're doing something like that, the planning is crucial, and preparation is crucial, and obviously you need to be getting it right on the take and making sure you get exactly what you need. But was there ever any sort of moments where it was something you couldn't plan for, it was more of a happy accident, but actually it benefits the movie and it stayed in the final cut?
No, I don't think so. I think because I knew it was one take, it wasn't really one of those ones where we could be like, let's just see how it goes on the day, and you can do that when you've got various, different sort of angles to cut to, but we knew had to have it. I think I don't know, maybe if you speak to somebody else on the shoot, they'll go, oh, I can change loads of stuff. But it was fairly meticulously planned because we knew, I couldn't like just drop in another shot or do some ADR. I had to all be there. So sorry, it was really quite regimented.
And on the flip side of that, was there any moments of like, we are 90% of the way through this take, and then, oh crap, somebody said the wrong thing, or oh crap, something's happened? Yeah. Was there any moments like that?
We had a few. I think there were 2 takes that we stopped partway through, just because, and again, I don't want to give away too much of the ending, but at the end of the film, Dodie gets like quite sort of messy, and just from her point of view of having to reset that every time, If I didn't have to make her do that, if I knew this take's not going to get used, then I didn't want her to go all the way to the end and be like, oh yeah, well, we screwed it up like 3 minutes in because somebody coughed or the microphone cut out or something like that. So I think there were 2 takes that we had to abort partway through. And yeah.
Could you see yourself doing another sort of one take, or is this like you've challenged yourself? Because I imagine it is quite stressful and quite sort of like bashing your head against a brick wall at times. Would you attempt it, and would you extend on it and maybe go like feature length one take?
I mean, it does have stresses with it, but any filmmaking is stressful. Like whatever you do, there are always going to be unknowns until the day. The idea to do a one take film wasn't like a sort of a gimmicky thing of like, oh, okay, I'm going to make a one take film and then let's write a story around it. It just, the idea came, and when it arrived, it was a one take movie. It said like, this is the story, but it's also shot in one take. And so to not do that would be not to do that idea. So if I got another idea like that come through, then yeah, I would do it. But I certainly wouldn't be like looking to be like the one take guy. It just depends. It depends on what's best for the story. And as I said, like hopefully when it goes well, when an idea works, it comes to you like fully formed. And there were things we had to work on. This don't get me wrong, but it arrived like that. It was, this is the setup, this is the premise, and it's all done in one take. Yeah.
So one thing that I hear a lot when we have short movies, and when I talk to directors who've made some short movies, is that the short movie is essentially like a full section of a broader picture. Right. It's like a complete story of the broader picture. And I'm not saying that you should maybe look at doing a feature with this, because I think it's perfect as is. I really loved the way this started. I loved the way that ended, and I wouldn't really imagine that you would want to embellish it into anything bigger. But what kind of world do you think this could live inside, and what sort of inspirations when writing the story did you have?
I'd say there were, in terms of horror films or films in general, there were 2 main inspirations. The first one was Rosemary's Baby, and the second one was The Wicker Man. So those 2 things were really kind of strong and in our mind. So yeah, I think I could imagine it being set in a rural English village, and the main character Sam, these new people move into the town, very sort of like an IRA 11 Stepford Wives thing, something along those lines. And then she has to kind of navigate these newcomers to the village. That I could see that you could do that film for sure. Yeah. So yeah, potentially it might be something I do, and that would be fine, but it would be very, very different formally, I think, to the short Surprise. And Surprise is, because it's one take, it's all kind of occurs in real time. And I'd imagine if it was a feature, it would take place over maybe several weeks or months. But maybe you could do like a feature length that all occurs in real time. I've seen movies do that, and it's really, I thought Buried, that Ryan Reynolds one, that's a real time movie, and that works really well. So potentially, yeah, that's something to do, but I haven't got plans to do that at the moment.
And working with the ARC team again, after doing Nuts together, and you're back again to do this together, what was it like having them on board for this, and even Alice Ryan providing one of the voices?
Yeah. It was great. Yeah, I mean, Alice is and always has been really just super kind and supportive. In fact, all of ARC have, but Alice is probably the person obviously I worked with the most on the film, in terms of she was producing it and a cast member in it too. And yeah, those guys are great. They know people, and if I say to Alice, right, okay, I want to do this one take film, she'll be like, oh, okay, I know a guy that we can hire the equipment from to do it. And she put me in touch with the DOP and stuff like that. Rob Hum, who's a lovely fellow. So yeah, and then to have her be in it too was just really, really nice, and yeah, I definitely would love to work with those guys again. They're really, really cool, and yeah, make me feel very valued and supported as a filmmaker. So it's nice.
And when you have obviously Alice is doing a voice, and I caught Ross Henson doing a voice in there. A big fan of Ross Henson, so I'm going to mention that. But how How does that work? Is that done at the same time as you film the performance, or is that all like ADR later? And then in terms of timing, how does that work?
It is all filmed at the same time. Obviously, with the off-screen characters, we had the option to say, like, we use take 6 for the final film. I could always go to take 4, cut that, and plop it in if we wanted to. I don't think we did that very much, to be honest with you. The only bits of dialogue that were recorded outside of the filming day was the kids. We recorded all of the kids separately. And then on the day, we had it literally on our laptop and just would like play samples of kids saying like, "Mummy," and stuff like that, or singing their song and things. So that because I just thought, Jesus Christ, it's hard enough to do a one-take film with adult actors. Put some kids into it as well, it would be an absolute nightmare. So we did that all in advance, yeah.
And how much fun was that for the kids to just run around doing that kind of thing? And obviously, without any spoilers, they have some really good stuff towards the end.
Yes, yeah. No, they really enjoyed it. There was one kid, and again, I don't want to sort of give away any spoilers, but he had to like hurt an inanimate object. We had to record him hurting something, but it's inanimate, like just the sound of it being like the impact. And he was like, "Oh, I really don't want to hurt it." But all the other kids were just animals. They destroyed it. And yeah, they were a lot of fun, actually. I really enjoyed recording them. I was a bit worried because I've never sort of worked with child actors before. We had one child in Nuts, but they literally did like 2 shots and that was it. Yeah. Whereas we had, like half a day, like each of them for about an hour. And it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed working with them.
So every movie is a learning process for sure, and I'm guessing you learned a lot making this one, a totally different sort of technique to what you did last time, so some different disciplines and whatnot. And here you are, 3 shots in. What would you say is, first of all, the biggest thing you've learned about filmmaking so far that you weren't necessarily aware of, but also the biggest thing you've learned about yourself in this filmmaking journey?
Those are difficult questions.
Very difficult. That's why I asked.
In terms of, for me, I suppose I've learned 2 things. I think number 1 is that like story and character is key, and if you don't have those things, then everything else is kind of, by the by. It doesn't matter how well edited or shot or color graded or anything. I think if you don't have those things, so that's something that I really try to work on, and whether I'm successful, that's down to other people to kind of say. But for me, that's where I put all of my sort of time and effort in, and say getting ideas. What have I learned about myself doing it? I think I have. I suppose I've got. I'm getting a sense of like what my voice is as a director, and just like trusting in that and appreciating it for what it is and running towards it, as opposed to kind of trying to be like filmmakers that I might like. It's just trying to be sort of authentic and true to what I think I bring as a filmmaker. Mm-hmm. It doesn't sound too pretentious, I don't know.
Well, no, but it does lead into the next question I have for you, which is obviously you do look up to a lot of other filmmakers, and there are filmmakers out there that we all are inspired by. If you could show any one director, live or dead, it can be anyone, but if you could show any one director Surprise, and maybe even Nuts as well, but mostly Surprise right now, which director would you show it to as a way of getting maybe some feedback and see what they thought of it?
Good question. I don't know why, but as you were saying it, I just thought Wes Craven. So I'm going to say Wes Craven.
Nice.
Yeah.
He's the daddy. He's the absolute daddy, isn't he?
Yeah. And I think he's obviously got an affinity for the genre. And again, I think he's somebody who understood like story and character. I think he's, so hopefully, he would dig what we've done. I love other directors, like, I've been thinking about David Lynch a lot lately, obviously in Passing Away, and I've sort of, gone down a David Lynch rabbit hole. But I obviously I think this is very different to a David Lynch movie. I don't know if he would get anything from it, but yeah, that would be cool. Just have a conversation with him. So him or Wes Craven, either of those would be fine.
And obviously we have our cocktails at the Romford Film Festival, the Horror Festival, both festivals really. We do cocktails at the bar themed around our movies. What kind of surprise would be in the surprise cocktail, do you think?
Well, we have one in the film actually. We have she drinks what's called a vodka blush, and it had a rosemary sprig in it. And my wife Eve, she has like her own sort of cocktail Instagram page called Red Hair with a Curl, and she made those drinks for the movie. So I guess a vodka blush. But if I was going to do something themed around the movie, I think it would probably be red. And I think it would be really sickly sweet. That would be how I would make it. So a lot of grenadine in it or sugar syrup. Makes you puke after like 2 sips.
I mean, that's me after 2 sips of any drink, really. To be fair,
really? I obviously, like, I'm very lucky because my wife is makes them all the time. We just done dry January actually. But
that seems a bit pointless with an Instagram like that.
Yeah, I know. But I like them really boozy. I like it just basically sort of straight liquor with a little dash of, I don't know, a bitter in it or something like that. So
good man, I like the sound of that. So we're going to wrap up in a quick second, but again, Sunday the 2nd of March, Screen 7 from 8 p.m, the Short Film Showcase 7. We're going to be showing Surprise and with a bunch of other shorts, but please do check it out, everyone. But what is next for Dave Gardner? You've mentioned a couple other little projects here and there as we've spoken, but what's next for you, and where will people be able to see Surprise after the Romford Festival? What happens with it after this?
Yeah, cool. So next for me is another movie, which will hopefully be preparation for it turn that one into the feature. And that movie is kind of very inspired by things like body horror stuff like The Fly, and also Little Shop of Horrors and stuff like that. I'm toying with the idea of doing it as a musical, but I don't know if this should be a musical, but that might be something that we do for the feature. And then in terms of where Surprise will be seen next, I've submitted it to mostly genre festivals, so we'll be finding out about that in the coming months. So yeah, throughout the year, just submitting it to genre festivals. Quite a lot of ones in America actually, but obviously I hope to get into some of the UK genre festivals. So that's the plan, and then eventually, it'll probably be on the Arc Pictures YouTube channel. But I'm hoping that won't be for a while because I'm hoping it's playing all around the world in festivals.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I love it, and I think it will. I think people at our festival definitely. This is one that I think people are really going to take to, and I can see further abroad. I can see further outfield. People will take to it as well. So I really hope that it does play everywhere. Everyone gets to see it and gets a nice little surprise from it. And I had to do that, but I don't know why. But
mate, I do it all the time. I do it all the like. Honestly, the amount of times I've sort of been talking about this film and had to go, no pun intended. So don't worry, I do it all the time. And thank you very much for your kind words. Yeah, that's really nice of you, Kevin. Thank you.
No, man. We love nuts. The festival loved nuts, and so when we saw you were coming back with Surprise and seeing that you were doing something a little bit different, because I seem to remember the last time we spoke, you mentioning about always trying to like flex different muscles and going in different areas. So you've clearly done that with this movie, and then you're talking about possibly a body horror musical, which is like, I mean, could you get any more different again? Which I love, by the way. But obviously, again, like we said before about learning things about yourself and learning things about filmmaking, what is the one bit of advice from someone who's now made 3 shorts? What was the one bit of advice that you would give somebody looking to get into it and running with this game?
Beyond the obvious stuff, which probably everybody would say, I'll say one thing, and I'll probably say, if you can get people to read your script and give you feedback, give you notes on it, and make sure they're people who you trust and you respect, and you don't have to change your script, or your idea if you disagree with those notes, but it will really help you, because, you know, case in point with Surprise, we wrote it and I was happy with it, and then I showed it to a couple of people and they all said, yes, this is good. And then one guy who it was a lovely man, and he said to me, it's good, but the ending's a bit meh. And obviously when I heard that, I was like, oh no. But he was right. The ending that we had at that time was a bit meh. It started and it finished how you thought it was going to finish. Right. And it took me a while to get the ending that we've now got in the film and that I am really happy with. But I'm so pleased that I did that because, I think this ending is so much more satisfying. And that's all only because, you know, somebody was kind enough to read it and give me that note. So I would say that's what I would do.
27th of February through to the 2nd of March, Romford Horrific 2025. We're going to be showing 161 movies, shorts and features over the space of 4 days over 7 to 8 screens at what will be the Lumiere cinema. No longer the premiere, the Lumiere. So please do, everyone, get there, come and watch it. And I think Dave sold his movie very nicely there. So you will absolutely love this flick. Dave, thank you,
Kevin. Really looking forward to it. Yeah, and I'll see you there at the festival.
We are knee-deep into this pandemic, and there are more questions than there are answers.
Maddie, can you hear me okay?
Heaven have mercy, she lives.
Have you been wearing your gloves and your masks when you're outside?
Of course.
If you're going to be that close, please be considerate.
So how does it feel fighting the virus every day?
Sorry, this baby's spoken for.
What? Like real guns? I'm a pacifist.
Help! Help!
I foresee the virus consuming us all.
What are you still standing there for?
It's not isolated. We're getting reports from around the world.
That bad? Huh?
Whoa! What in the world is going on out there?
In the throes again of another episode in the lead up to the Romford Horror Film Festival, the 27th of February right through to the 2nd of March. So we are only 2 to 3 to 4 weeks away, depending on when you watch this interview. But on the Thursday, the 27th of February, on Screen 4 at 1 p.m., we have a returning director. We have Russ Emanuel, who came on last year to talk about his movie Occupants. This year, he's giving us his movie Staycation, a movie that will most likely remind you of sometimes you don't want to be reminded of, but isn't that the point of any good horror movie, or any good movie, in fact? Russ, how are you today? How are you, my good friend?
I'm good. Good. Thank you for, again, having me at your wonderful festival and having me on your show. It's great to talk to you. Have you been having a very good staycation yourself?
I always have a very good staycation. That's my thing. And when I don't have that, it's because I've got the Occupants inside me.
Oh, no.
If you will. Last time we spoke, it was about your movie Occupants, which I genuinely had a really, really good time with. I loved the way you made that movie in the term, sort of like the almost kind of found footagey documentarian kind of way. Fantastic film. So it was great to see that you had submitted another movie, this time for horror. So that was a little bit different as well. So yeah, we're really, really glad to have you on board and find out a little bit more about Staycation. But firstly, what I want to do is, I know we've spoken before, but this could be somebody's first time tuning into our show and seeing you and seeing your projects and finding out about yourself. So I like to treat it as it's everybody's first time or anybody's first time and ask the simple question of how exactly you got into the film industry and why on earth you would want to do that to yourself.
Well, I got into films because I love film music. I probably mentioned this last year. John Williams. It's always for me, John Williams. And God bless that man. I'm listening to his score for Indiana Jones 5. I listened to it in my car. I drove for 6 hours yesterday from my home state of California to I'm staying in a hotel in Arizona. And John Williams kept me awake for those 6 hours. No, John Williams. His music is just amazing, and it inspired me. It still inspires me, and when I do a movie like Occupants or Staycation, I definitely focus on the music. So I'm very, very nitpicky about music. As for how I got in, I was blessed to be able to get into the USC Film School. That's University of Southern California, a pretty accredited school in the United States. And I was able to meet a lot of wonderful people, including my late filmmaking partner, Emil Harris, who unfortunately passed away in 2023. He is the other half of Staycation. He was the writer, he was the editor, and the director of photography. So a big shout out to him. Because I met him in around 2002, we were able to make films together, and he's basically worked on every single one of my films. Another shout out to Howard Nash, my producer of my first 5 feature films. So I did a short with Harris called Girl with Gun, an action short, and it got into places like the San Diego Comic-Con. That film got the attention of Howard Nash, and Howard Nash had a feature film that had Robert Picardo of Star Trek Voyager, who's currently Robert Picardo of Star Trek Starfleet Academy, filming right now, and the late John Hurd, who was the Home Alone dad, and basically offered me the director role. So I was very blessed to be able to direct my first feature film back when I was 29 years old. And since then, I've done 6 feature films, and Staycation, of course, is my 6th one. And I've worked with a lot of wonderful actors, Robert Picardo, John Hurd. For Staycation, I worked with Olivia Dabo, who was in Star Wars, Star Trek, Conan, Wonder Years. Sean Kenny, who was the crippled Captain Pike from the original Star Trek series. Just a lot of wonderful actors. So yeah, I'm just very blessed.
What is it that obviously you're inspired by the likes of epic scores, and you've had people alongside you who have inspired you to keep going and all that, but what is it exactly about filmmaking that gets you out of bed in the morning, that like really gets your juices flowing?
Oh, just the goosebumps. Like when I listen to the music, even now I just get goosebumps. I can feel it. It feels great. When you see a scene in a film and it works, I guess I can emote, and it touches me. I would cry, I would laugh. Talking about Staycation, there is a scene in the film that has to do, I won't give it away, but it does have to do with cats. And every time I see that scene, I just laugh out loud. And when I was quality controlling this film, which basically I have to watch this film over and over and over again, make sure that, I, didn't miss anything, in terms of, visual effects errors or whatnot. So every time I see that one scene in the film, again, I can't really give it away, but I just laugh out loud. And if I get that reaction, that's what really gets me going. And I just hope other people have that reaction, whether it's laughing because it's funny, or if it's Occupants, you just freak out because a parallel version of yourself starts attacking you, So yeah, that's why I get up and I do this.
So let's talk a little bit about Staycation, the movie that we're going to be showing at the Romford Horror Festival, of course, this year. Can you tell our audience a little bit about what Staycation is, what the movie is, and what it means to you?
Well, it's what it means to, I think, almost everybody in the world living through a global pandemic, and it's a social commentary on living through a global pandemic and how people around the world react to a said pandemic. Now, it is not COVID, but it's definitely COVID inspired. It's a horror film, and again, I don't want to give too much away, but it's a horror comedy, I guess. It's more like a social commentary spoof. So what I was going for was like in the vein of Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop, which had a very dreary A story. A cop loses his life, his family, he becomes a robot. I mean, talk about depressing. you know. And I think what Paul Verhoeven did was he interspersed it with social commentary commercials like Sunscreen 5000, which was so ludicrous, you know, that you just had to laugh out loud. And it was kind of like these little comic relief shorts, you know, that, you know, it kind of like lightened the mood for a dreary A story. And I kind of did that, hopefully successfully, with Staycation. So interspersed, for instance, there's clown vitamin commercials. And that, again, it's a social commentary. During COVID, what did people do? They stocked up on vitamin C, you know, or zinc or echinacea. And I did too, so I can't be a hypocrite. But yeah, we kind of like, you know, took that, but made it even more insane, you know, in the film. And you'll see other like YouTubers in the film, and, you know, they would do a chicken tender challenge, you know, and see if they could eat it. So it's something like that. And it's all tied together to what the film is about. So, you know, yeah, I had fun doing that stuff. It's really fun.
It's cool you mentioned that as well, because I hadn't really, until you sort of like started talking about it, I hadn't really put the RoboCop connection together, but you're absolutely spot on with that. And that was one of those things that when I sat down to watch Staycation, and I realized, like, okay, it's not a COVID movie, but it's definitely like a pandemic kind of movie. So I'm sort of like, okay, we've seen hundreds of these in the last couple of years now, because that's what everybody made when they were in COVID. How is Russ going to keep me entertained and keep this fresh and keep this original? And it was those little bits. It was cutting to the news reports, talking to the scientist. It was cutting to the adverts, the YouTubers. How much fun were they to create, though?
Oh, they're very fun, you know, and each one can be its own little story, if you will. But again, it's all tied together to a greater whole. No, it's very fun. You know, I mentioned cats. You know, I put in cats in the film. You know, cats and dogs. I mean, I love cats and dogs, but you know, but I had fun doing that. You know, so if you watch the film, it is a comedy. It definitely is a comedy. It's like a spoof comedy. You know. And I didn't want to do a typical pandemic movie or a typical, you know, I can't use the word, but there's creatures in this film. I didn't want to do a typical version of that. So we did this, you know, something that hopefully is different, you know, and it's kind of like Occupants. You break the fourth wall. I'm looking at the camera, and sometimes you do that, but there's also the standard narrative techniques for like the Britt and Marnie sequences in the film. So it's kind of interspersed together, kind of like RoboCop, you know. So yeah, I mean, when you watch the film, hopefully these little vignettes, if you want to call them, you know, you'll find them entertaining, and yeah, you'll just want to watch all 94 minutes.
Absolutely. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. And you mentioned over the years, this is your sixth feature film. You've been doing this for a little while now, and obviously you've worked with amazing talent. How exactly, obviously you probably, you know a lot of these people now, but how do you attract them onto this kind of low budget independent movie that you're making about a virus, and it's sort of like, let's go for Olivia d'Abo, let's go for Kelly Mulroney, let's go for Laurie Landon. Like, you've got all these fantastic Eileen Dietz as well, which I'm sure Spencer's going to be Spencer's going to be very happy with that. Like, he's always happy to see Eileen Dietz. But honestly, like, how do you attract these people onto these films, and how do you get them on?
Well, you know, it does help that I have directed 5 feature films before, and I have directed notable actors, which I'm very grateful for, and they take that into account, I think. But also, you know, I sell the story that, you know, it's gonna be like RoboCop, you know, or, you know, it's a social commentary, kind of a spoof, and you're just gonna have fun doing this character. You know, you're just like Kelly Mulroney. She's a housewife, you know, basically, you know, and she has to live with, you know, this nosy neighbor, you know. And I said, you're just gonna have fun. You're gonna like banter with her, you know, and you want to, like, you know, do a fight with a broomstick, you know. And I'm going, and she's like, yeah, that sounds exciting. Let's do that. Yeah, like that, you know. With Olivia, you know, she and I know a mutual friend, which is another actor, Sean Kenny. And Sean Kenny, I become very good friends with him and his wife, Taki. So, there's like these connections, and I think, kind of like she checks me out by going to Sean, say, hey, who is this guy? And he's like, oh, yeah. Hopefully Sean says, yeah, you want to work with him? I'm like, okay. So that's how we come about. And yeah, I'm just so grateful that Olivia, Sean, and the others just agreed to do this, and I just hope they like it. I know Eileen has seen it at another festival and she says she liked it. Kelly's gonna see it at an upcoming one, and Olivia too. So, and Sean has seen it at another festival. So they seem to like it. I don't know if they're just being nice to me, but that's what they say.
And was there any times, like, this is a question that I like to ask, especially when you're dealing with that level of talent who have such body of work, so you're able to let them, you bring them in by telling them they're going to have a little bit of fun with it. You're able to let them sort of run with certain scenarios, do some of their own things, but was there anything that came about that wasn't initially in the script that they just kind of did on the day, or anyone did on the day, and it benefited the movie, it made the movie a little bit better, and you're like, that's staying in?
Yeah, there's a scene. Basically, I like to give my actors a lot of leeway. As long as they stick to the story, I think it makes their performances more natural. If they don't say the words verbatim, sometimes they may be tongue twisting on a certain, word. Like for me, because of my overbite, I can't say the very well. So I would then focus on the word the, and it will take me out of the performance. So I tell them, just, if you have any good ideas, just come to me and we'll work together. I'm a collaborator. I collaborate. It's not my way or the highway. And I think, I guess they like that. I want to help them. I want to help them get the best performance possible. That's my job, right? So hopefully, they like to do that. So yes, they would come up with ideas like, maybe smoking a cigarette in the scene. I think Sean came up with that for one scene, and he was like the Winston man back in the 1970s, on the billboard. So then it became a little homage to his role as the Winston man from the 1970s. So we put a little extreme close-up of him smoking a cigarette for that reason. So it's like a little in-joke, Yeah.
And when you look at the project as a whole, now that it's finished, and obviously you have all your sum of its parts, you have all your characters, is there any character in there, one character, maybe two characters in particular, but is there any character in there that you would love to expand on their story in particular, whether it's like a short movie just to accompany Staycation? Would you ever entertain building on someone's story?
I already wrote Staycation 2. Well, I actually was out for 6 weeks for a foot injury, and I had time to kill. And I had my own staycation. I literally could not leave my condo. So I wrote Staycation 2 back in 2023. And yes, a lot of the characters, they come back. Nice. Britt Marnie, the Sean Kenny character, the Olivia character. Yeah, they all come back. And hopefully they want to come back. But yeah, I definitely expand. In the film, you will notice things like El Gato's cigarettes or Havine brandy. They're made up products, Crazy Clown Vitz vitamins. We created it. That means we own it. We can use it. And we want to use it for successive films, and hopefully Staycation 2 is the first of many.
I love that. So it kind of becomes its own little shared universe in a way, but it's self-contained stories, but it's if you know kind of thing.
Oh, I love this stuff. It's like, for me, I grew up doing puzzles and building Legos, and for me, it's like building something, and I'm building hopefully a franchise. I think it's fun. It's fun to do that. When I did Occupants, it was just fun to put it together. Fun to figure out the challenges of filming a real couple in their parallel version. It takes a lot of thinking, but it's fun to do it. And when it comes together, as it did, you feel like you accomplished something, and I feel that way with Staycation. It took a good 4 years. We actually filmed during COVID. We filmed under COVID restrictions. It was tough. We had a COVID compliance officer. it eats into your budget. It eats into your filming time to deal with COVID. So, but I took it as a challenge, and in the end, the film is done. It is done. It took 4 years, but we did it, and I am proud of it.
And I feel like obviously filming in COVID times and COVID compliance and everything like that throws up its own challenges. What do you think you learned most about yourself in that process, having to deal with that and how you were going to attack those challenges? What do you think you maybe learned more about yourself in that process?
Well, it learned that I learned to be a lot more efficient, because if you're not efficient enough, then you won't have enough time to film, especially with COVID compliance. So I learned to have a plan B or plan C, a plan D, just in case. With Olivia's character, we had to shoot her out in half a day. And with COVID compliance, that means about an hour of your time of your day is dealing with just COVID. Like airing out the warehouse, or checking in, getting your temperature checked and all that stuff. So I think in a sense, it made me a better producer, definitely a better producer, because you really have to just think like weeks ahead and just plan to make sure it goes at least 90% well. Definitely. And I'll take that mindset into my my next film for sure.
Absolutely. If you could, obviously you were a huge John Williams fan growing up, and that's kind of inspired you throughout the years, and there will be other directors and producers and everyone out there that you have inspired you. If you could put Staycation in front of any director, living or dead, if you could put it in front of anyone for a little bit of feedback, who would you put it in front of, and why?
It would be Sir Alfred Hitchcock, because he was the master of suspense. Just a little trivia. I worked with William Devane on my second feature film. William Devane was a main actor in Sir Alfred Hitchcock's last film, Family Plot. But I look up to the master of suspense. And when I did Occupants, it obviously was an homage, a lot of Hitchcock in there. But yeah, because he just knew, if not horror, he knew suspense. He knew suspense very well. Psychological thriller, if you will. I think that I love psychological thriller. So yeah, it'd definitely be Sir Alfred.
Awesome. And no director likes to big up their movie too much. When you ask them about it, they'll tell you all the little flaws, because they can see every single flaw, because that's just what creatives do. And that's fine. That's fine. But what I like to ask is, when you see Staycation up on the big screen, is there any moment on there that you think to yourself, man, that just looks absolutely amazing, we smashed that day? Just a moment that you are particularly proud of?
Well, I mentioned the cat scene. I knew it was working because I was just laughing my butt off. But there's another scene with the transformation of one of the characters using prosthetic makeup. And again, I cannot say even more, but let's just say it took an hour to put her into the makeup, including contact lenses, where she could not even see. She was blind, basically, because they were custom created contact lenses, and she had to do a fitting and everything like weeks before with the special effects makeup artist Christopher Osario. So yeah, I'm very proud of that, and it worked for me. It worked. I was so happy when that came together, because you just don't know. You don't know. We keep mentioning Occupants. There's a scene in there where Parallel Annie whacks her counterpart with a pan, and we didn't know if it would work, because we had to film her twice, as the real Annie and the Parallel Annie. But we didn't know until we post-production put it together if it would even work, if it even would look realistic. So same thing with something like this. We plan, hope for the best. And when we film it and it looks good, and I think the acting by Bailey Sorrell is amazing, who played the Kathy character. Yeah, I it just gives me those goosebumps, and I'm just very happy. So that and the cats.
What do you hope our audiences walk away from Staycation feeling like after they've seen the movie? What do you hope they take away from this movie?
Well, I hope they can associate with it, living through a global pandemic and, how people react to it. And not everybody's going to react the same. I hope they could see themselves in it. I definitely could see myself in it. Even now I have hand sanitizer wherever I go. I still have a face mask in my car. I think I also take vitamins now, more vitamins, just like the crazy Clown Vits vitamins commercials. So I do that, and I just hope they could see part of themselves in the film and they just are entertained, and hopefully they want to see more in the sequel.
Awesome. And on that, we're going to start wrapping out a little bit. I've got a couple more questions, but on that, apart from the sequel, which you've written and you can't wait to get running with, is there anything else you can tell us that you're working on, or is everything just sort of promoting Staycation just now, getting it out there? Where can people see Staycation in other festivals, and what happens with this movie?
Well, we are in the process of getting distribution. We hired a sales agent, a really good sales agent. So that's one. We literally hired this wonderful person like a week and a half ago. Awesome. We're obviously screening at like the Romford Horror Festival, wonderful festival. Thank you for having us. There's other festivals. Like I'm right now at a festival called the Chandler International Film Festival. They actually screened the film last night, literally at midnight.
Nice.
Their late night feature. Yes, I don't know how I stayed awake for it, but I did. It was quite late. Upcoming festivals, we are screening at the Man Chinese Theater in Hollywood, at the Golden State Film Festival. There's the Idlewild Festival Cinema. There's the Santa Fe Film Festival. I'm probably missing the Hollywood Real Independent Film Festival. So there are festivals, but our game plan is to get distribution. So you don't have to just go to a festival to see this film. You could hopefully see it, if not limited theatrical, then streaming. The streaming sites like Netflix.
And other than that, what else is Ross working on, or is it all just Staycation right now?
Well, I'm in Staycation 2, I mentioned. There's another idea called the Dollhouse, which I'm talking to my head executive producer, and he's intrigued. But it's an idea that I've had for a while. I mean, Staycation 2, I think, is priority, but this is called the Dollhouse. And I'm also in talks with my producer, Paul Hickman, about doing a third Assassin's Apprentice film. So I did Assassin's Apprentice 1 and 2, again with a lot of Star Trek actors, and there is plans to do a third one. So those are the projects. Mm-hmm.
So one of my last questions is a bit of a strange one. I think you might, but maybe not. Maybe I think you'll be okay with this one. So basically, if we were to take your entire filmography to date, and if we were to stick it in a time capsule for somebody to uncover in the future, but within that group of your features so far, your projects so far, there is a little message from yourself. What would you say to the person that dug this up and was about to watch your movies? What message would you give them about yourself and your films?
Thank you for taking the time to watch. I hope you appreciate or are entertained by what I put out there, and maybe you can associate with it, even though it's been 250 years. So maybe they'll be like, this is what life was really like 250 years ago. I just hope I'll tell them, I put a lot of dedication and passion into what I do, and I just hope you can see that and you are entertained by a 94-minute film called Staycation.
And Russ, it absolutely shows. Talking to you like this. It absolutely shows your passion. Watching your movies, your passion is all over it. I'm so glad you came back and gave us Staycation, and I'm after having seen Occupants last year. So thank you so much for submitting. Thank you for giving us. Again, it will be showing on, let me just pull my notes up, Thursday the 27th over on Screen 4 at 1 p.m. At the Romford Horror Film Festival, which will be in the Lumiere Cinema, no longer the Premiere Cinema. It is now the Lumiere, or it will be when we open. So please do come check this movie out. Big old box of popcorn. You're going to have a right laugh. And yeah, look out for those cats. But at the moment, Russ, thank you so much for doing this. And I'll just let you.
Well, thank you for having me.